Come in, welcome. What's that? No, you haven't missed anything. They're just about to start. Buffalo sports, of course. Everything. Bills, Sabres, Buttes, No, it's not very... Well, they certainly think they're funny. Listen, let me pour you a drink. Have a seat and lend an ear. You'll hear tales of sorrow and despair, endless droughts and infamous tanks, and things Mike doesn't like. Please, join us.
Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast, coming at you live from a room that's distinctly missing Justin's fat head. I feel like a part of us has gone and flown away. It's apparently fallen down. He's reaching for it. There it is. Perfect. We can start the show now. God bless. Thanks for listening, everyone. We're happy to be back here with you. Mid-December podcast here. We are winding down towards the end of the NFL season. We're reaching towards the midway point of the NHL season, and for us hockey fans out there, feels a little bit better at this point than it has for the entirety of this podcast's existence. The Buffalo Sabres, as we're recording here on a Monday night for a Tuesday morning release, have taken 7 points in their last 4 games, a couple of good weekend outings at Washington, a shootout loss, and a road victory at the Boston Bruins on Sunday night. And I think we talked about it a little bit off the air, guys, but we are seeing a level of play from Buffalo's captain, Jack Eichel, that we have only hoped to see to this point. He has reached the level that the superstar, the generational prospect tag that was given to him finally looks to have shown through, especially in the last 6 periods of hockey that he's played.
Listen, they're paying this guy $10 million a year. He doesn't back check, and I don't like him.
Doesn't score.
I'm totally kidding. I can't say any of that with a straight face.
Not scoring enough. He's kind of slow.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan.
Didn't take a single stride inside the blue line on that goal where he just absolutely ripped it
He
past
didn't take a
Phoenix
single
Copley.
stride from the center line.
The past week or so have been like the scene in the Matrix where Neo learns he's the one.
You know what though? Part of the problem is the first 3 years he hasn't had anything around him to work with.
Right.
I mean, even the
one
best
of those
players
years he
in
had
the
the very late preseason injury too.
and even the best players in the world need something to work with, and he just hasn't had anything to work with. And despite that, he's put up pretty decent numbers. So, of course, you had to expect him to break out this year with everything around him.
Well,
Skinner has
you
been
had to hope
mutually
at the very
beneficial.
least.
Including Rasmus Dahlin, who
Dahlin,
3
who can-
points on Friday night.
He's learning it. He's learning how to play.
I mean, you got Dahlin, you got Skinner, you've got just all sorts of people coming in and it's been mutually beneficial. They've all raised the play of Eichel, and Eichel has raised the play of them, and it's shown.
And how about Rhino's 50-foot saucer?
Well, that was
Dot.
Phil. That's Phil.
Oh.
The Reinhart, Skinner, Eichel line has become must-watch hockey for fans around the league, and it's not just us Buffalo fans. Like you're starting to see people post those Eichel Reinhart clips, like they're posting the Elias Pettersson clips or the Crosby goal clips. Like it's must-watch
They
hockey.
won me $100 last night.
Yeah,
I played the Sabres top line.
Well, there you go.
I said like, the last time we recorded about Dahlin, like he's just missing on chances. He's getting there, and once he starts putting these away, the Sabres are gonna pay off, and you're starting to see it. The 3-point game, he's playing with so much. He's playing with the most confidence ever right now. He's found his game, and he's still finding it.
I forget who it was that they asked about it. If it was Jack or someone, it's like, yeah, as soon as Rasmus figures out that he can do that stuff to NHL players, he's just going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, and this team is full of young guys still finding their games in the NHL. Like, look at Middlestat; he's not scoring right now, but I have no problem with his game. He plays the NHL games.
Oh, he's just snake bit.
Just fine.
Yeah.
You know,
He was in high school 18 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he has a great line, but when that line's going, it's because he's going. Like that line goes when he goes. Not when Okposo's going, because Okposo doesn't go these days.
Well, Okposo's also a scoring winger. His career has been he's the guy who finishes the chances put in front of him by the center. He was very successful for a long time because John Tavares would lay pucks on a platter, and when he gets those chances, he doesn't miss, to his credit. But he's waiting for Casey to kind of learn how to be that playmaking center, and as a result, his play has dropped as a result.
I almost want to see them call up guys like Olofsson and Nylander, not because I'm like impatient, but I want to see it get guys like Middlestat and Tage Thompson going. Thompson started playing with Stabak and Palmerville. like two fucking like statues on the ice.
Can we say that Pominville does not need to be on the first line anymore? Because the number of people that were bitching when he got pulled off the first line, he was a product of playing with Jack and Skinner.
That's what I was saying when they made the switch. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're fine.
Like, it kind of sucks they have to put Sam up there just to get him going again, because now you're going to lose Pominville's production. But I guess it kind of it offsets each other because someone else is going. But whoever's up there is going to.
But at some point, someone needs to go down to the second or third line and still produce, whether that's Pominville or Reinhardt or whomever. You need to produce at some point. I mean,
yeah, because you look at these last 4 games, and Jack's line is playing so well and producing so well, but man, they just don't have anything on those bottom 9 forwards. They get a chance or a goal every once in a while, but they were being buoyed by defensive scoring for a while during that win streak. But the second and third line scoring has been such an issue.
Give them credit last Tuesday though when Larson and Gergensons did both score.
and that's great to see. And those were big goals in a game that they could have easily lost.
I was about to say this: the next best line on this team is the fourth line.
Yeah,
and it's Larson, Gergensons, and Rodriguez.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see Rodriguez down there. I want to see him up. I would love to see Rodriguez with Eichel and Skinner.
I think that would be nice.
Because he's just as fast as both of them. He makes plays. He grinds his corners hard.
I think that he might get a chance to play there at some point if Sam drops off or gets hurt. At this point, I don't need him to be there. I think Sam brings a nice element to that line, winning the corner battles, and he and Jack just seem to have such a great sense. You talked about that 50-foot pass that he made. He and Jack just have an understanding of each other on the ice, and even though I know Erod played with Jack, they probably play very well together still at this level. I think that my ideal situation for Erod is a second or third line speed winger to bring that element to another line that could desperately use it.
I don't hate it, but my thing with the player like Sam Reinhart, in his draft spot, of his caliber, he should be able to make a second line goal by himself. And he can't.
Now, do we
so
say
you
that
should be able to put someone like Rodriguez up there and have Reinhart run a second line, but he doesn't. He can't do it on his own.
Right. Now, I'm just curious to take a pulse of the room of this. Do we think that of Sam because he was drafted as high as he was, or do we think that Sam is actually capable of doing that? Or do we just hold him to a high first-round pick standard because he was taken there?
I think he shows a skill.
Does he show the but does he show the skill when he's not there with Jack?
I'm not going to answer your question. I'm just going to pose it differently. That I wanted Sam to be the second line center because they drafted him as a center, and he's never been that. And he's not a scoring winger either. But
he's a facilitator. He's a possession guy. He wins battles in corners. Mm-hmm. He's a center playing on the wing, which allows Jack to be a wing playing center at points, which has helped Jack kind of be more creative and roll up the right side and just make guys look ridiculous when he's scoring these goals the last couple of games. I think that's an element that Jason Pominville can't give Jack Eichel.
So my concern right now is Oposto's making, $6 a year? Reinhardt's making $5 a year, and I would like someone making that type of money to be able to make a line go.
I like
not
Steve,
on their own.
I like Steve Stott putting him at center because his biggest issue coming into the league playing center was he wasn't there physically, and maturity wise as a player. But you see now he is there physically.
He's definitely there
because he takes
now.
a whipping in front of the net every game, and he plays both sides of the ice now. He never did before, so I wouldn't mind that experiment again at center. But I don't hate the line. I love them together because they produce. But you need 2 lines, and I think Sam should be able to run his own line. There's no reason he shouldn't be able to. He needs Jack to play well.
Yeah.
And that's my problem with him.
I think they're hoping that Middlestat is going to be that catalyst, and he's not there yet.
When you see Middlestat play, especially in person, you see flashes of what he is going to be when he's, older than 15 years old. I'm kidding. I know he's 18, 19, but you see very, very legitimate 30-second stretches of what he can do. And it's like when that turns into a man doing that, it's going to be very fun
when
to
it fully
watch.
comes together.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about Middlestat is how deep his voice is. Like, he looks like your 12-year-old cousin, but he has a deep, booming public address voice. It's incredible.
He's fun to watch. So much of the NHL game is played along the boards and FS zone, and he's down there. He's in there. I have no problem with the way he plays the game at all. I think he just needs better guys around him. He's just playing with Kyle Oposto. Who else is on the other wing?
Sherry.
Brain fart. Yeah. Sherry goes hard, but he's not a finesse goal scorer.
No. Sherry's another guy who's a product kind of what's put in front of him.
He needs someone to feed, but there's a Oposto out there, but he's slow and plodding. That's good. Matt Molson. That's a Matt Molson now. That sucks. I like him as a player. He plays great in some games, but it's so few and far between.
Oposo or Sherry?
Okposo.
I was gonna say,
I
'cause
would lo-
Sherry's pretty consistent.
I would love to see someone from Rochester just to come up and get someone else going.
I hate to make it always about money, but Sherry's making $3 million a year. I have no issue with his production or lack thereof. Like he's out there hustling. He in a game,
spark
whether
plug.
they win or lose, he's probably not the reason, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Like he's not going to
he
be the
skates
reason
hard.
you're losing.
He's never going to
games.
give up on a play, no matter
Mhm.
what the score is. He doesn't get his goals all the time, but I think he plays well.
Yeah, you know what you're going to get from him.
Mhm.
You know it's going to be constant effort, and you know he's going to go hard. You know he's going to leave it all out on the ice, and he's not going to hurt the team.
Mhm. We watched him force that turnover that Middlestat scored on, I believe, Tuesday against
Yep.
the Kings. That was all Sherry's hustle, and that was great to see. He's got a great motor. That dude his feet never stop moving from start to end of his shift, and I'm good with his game 100%.
If Rodriguez could hit the net a little bit more, I wouldn't hate Rodriguez on that line with Sherry and Middlestat. But Rodriguez, if you're looking for Middlestat to feed a guy, as much as I love Rodriguez's game, he is never going to be a high shooting percentage player in this league. He just flings the puck and he gets it there sometimes. But
You got Nylander and
I-
Olsson just waiting, just pure
CJ
sniper.
Smith
Yeah.
too.
and
when he's healthy.
Nylander just skilled sniper who could also feed it to Middlestat.
I'm getting to the point slowly. The more you want Olofsson, that I want Olofsson up
He needs to be
there.
up here soon.
I want for me, I want Olofsson or Nylander to be replacing Sabatka or Berglund, which that's a whole
That's
nother
not going to be
story.
difficult to do.
Yeah, but that's
It's-
what
we-
I look at. I want to upgrade those
yeah,
positions.
So we haven't recorded since this came through on like Saturday morning or something.
There was a report before we recorded tonight. If you didn't see it, I'll bring it up. But
I didn't see it.
I'll bring it up and you can keep talking because
That Patrick Berglund was indefinitely suspended by the Buffalo Sabres for failure to report to the team. He hadn't been playing last week, but it was kind of listed in a way you would typically list a player who was out with an illness. No one thought anything of it until he continued to not be there. Didn't show up for the flight to Washington Saturday, and now we're wondering if he's going to go back home to Sweden, if he's ever going to be here again. Not a huge loss in the grand scheme of things. He was a piece in the O'Reilly trade that I think we just took on some money to make St. Louis feel
I
better
think he
about
made
themselves.
that trade happen. They
There-
want to make this contract go away, and we'll do this.
So there was a headline, a Hockey Night in Canada Saturday headline. This is reading a tweet from @BuffaloSelly, just giving credit. His no trade clause moved as a modified one on 7/1.
Mhm.
And the Ryan O'Reilly trade was consummated before he had a chance to submit his list. And that led to a difficult marriage between him and the Sabres. There's speculation that the Sabres may be looking into voiding his contract, but it would have to involve an agreement between the NHL and the Players Association. So he didn't want to come here.
Well,
And then he is
that's
coming here, and he's
tough.
riding the pine or sitting in the press box, and that complicates things.
My official journalistic term is, man, that's tough shit. You're getting paid $4 million to play professional hockey
On a good team.
on a team that's
Yeah.
succeeding.
Yes.
It's not like he got traded to the fucking Senators or something.
Yeah, it could be the Blues right now.
Yeah, he could still be in St. Louis where the sky is falling.
No,
on
but
that
if
Blues
he
team.
was there, they'd be good.
Yeah, he's the difference maker.
Correct.
He's got 2 points and 2 goals and 2 assists in 26 games. That guy's making the deal.
He's that two-way guy they're really missing right now.
Oh man, yeah, that's true. If they had him instead of O'Reilly, who knows? That could be top of the Atlantic right
Big
now.
guy,
or whatever.
long reach, good on face-offs. Really need him.
I mean, those guys aren't a dime a dozen.
So I forget who posted it on Twitter, but have you seen the person who tweeted out that the Sabres are probably would be better with O'Reilly on the team this year as well?
I don't know how I feel
not-
about
Depends
it.
on how much you
I'm
buy
not-
into the culture stuff.
Yeah, well, culture is kind of an important thing.
Yeah, I'm not
But
saying I don't buy into it. I'm
And
just
if
saying,
O'Reilly didn't want to be here, or whatever the case was,
Right. It depends
It
on whether
would
you
not
buy into
help
the
him.
narrative of whether or not O'Reilly wanted to be here.
yeah, and we're just going to for this discussion assume that he didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
That is not helping the team any. It doesn't matter how skilled the guy is if he doesn't want to be here, and he's not going to put it out on the ice every night.
Do you think he thinks he's above everybody else? I mean, how can one guy seem to affect so much? Think of it this way: Avalanche stunk, right? He leaves the Avalanche. They get good.
Well, they still stunk. They traded Matt Duchene.
right, Duchesne.
And then they got
Mhm.
good.
They were to the playoffs. They were
They went
really
to the
good
playoffs with
But
Duchene. and
Duchesne was
O'Reilly's
traded
still
very
there.
early last year, though,
with when they were good with
with Patrick Waugh for 1 year.
Yeah,
Yes, for 1
Was
year.
that-
Wasn't
was that
O'Reilly
with
still there?
Yes, O'Reilly and Duchesne were still there with Patrick Waugh for 1 year.
And then the sky fell in, and they traded O'Reilly after the next
Sabres
And
come,
fired Raw.
and fired Waugh. And
Sabres come. They continue to stink.
Yeah.
The Sabres get rid of him. They're good. They're better. He goes to the Blues.
who were good
They
last
were
year.
Great.
Just missed the
Great to
playoffs.
good.
They traded Stastny and still just missed the playoffs, but they were good.
And now they're poo-poo.
I mean, the Blues have been one step away from being garbage for about 5 years. They just keep having Jake Allen pull rabbits out of his hat.
Yeah,
I think
Tarasenko scoring
and
that.
Tarasenko being just a straight puck handling god for a while.
Maybe a forced take by me, but it's could be. I don't know.
I think
He's a common denominator.
Well, I
Whether
think
it's his fault or not, he is a common denominator.
people view him as the kind of guy who should be a leader. I think in sports, there are always stereotypes about players that we expect to be leaders of the team. It's your NFL quarterback. It's your catcher in baseball. It's your point guard in basketball. And it's your gritty two-line center in hockey is always expected to be a leader and your top number one defensive defenseman.
Do you think he's a leader to a fault almost?
No, I think he's actually actively not a leader at all,
Uh-huh.
and people look up to him and see a guy who doesn't want to interact with his teammates or doesn't want to do things after games and is quiet in the locker room and just continually says we have to be better. I mean, how we got that soundtrack worn into our ears last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a quiet guy who wants to play hockey, and
He talks
That's
so
it.
high ho and all that. I played on many teams in the past. Not many. I played teams in the past where the captain or the leader is like, it's just like, oh my god, just shut up already. Like you're trying too hard and just let it be.
And on that note, now when I hear a post-game press conference and someone like Jack says our effort was good tonight, like the Toronto game, I no longer want to pound my face through a window because it's true.
yeah, Jack doesn't.
Like
he
I
doesn't force
remember,
it.
but even the team though, the team like it's not. I remember the Sabres lost 2-0 last year in Nashville, and the first thing Coach Housley says is, "I like their effort tonight." You know what you can't say when your team is abysmal and you just lost 2-0?
That you liked it.
That you like the effort. I know. I understand every bit of what he was trying to say. Now, after the Toronto game, when they lose in overtime and Matthews, plays well and so does Jack, and they go and say, "Hey, you know what? I really liked our effort tonight." I can say, "Yeah, you know what? Me too." Like it does not. Those words no longer need to. And I also appreciate when Jack says things like, we weren't good for the first 40 minutes, and I understand the fans' frustrations because we need to be better in those 40 minutes.
It's not just feel good words at this point. It's everything they're saying you see at this point instead of the coach or the captain or whoever trying to make everybody feel better about the situation at hand.
The other difference is when Jack says I didn't like our effort in the first 40 minutes, they won. They beat LA in overtime. Our first 40 minutes weren't great, but they won in overtime. They pulled it out. They had a great third period and a beautiful overtime goal and on the power play, and all things can be said. You can say things like that and things can be forgiven because at the end of the day, you're getting results.
It feels like this is the first time in a long time when we can talk about how long it's been that the leadership and the coaching of Buffalo and how they talk and how they act is actually fully in line with what the Buffalo Sabres fan base expects of them. Like if Jack says they played poorly for 40 minutes, we need to be better, I think we all believe that Jack means that. We believe it to be true, and that team actually goes out and works on improving it.
He says it's a different way though. Like I feel it when I watch it on TV. I feel it. It's like, god damn. I think
It's just genuine.
Yeah.
He's a genuine leader. You can't force when we talked to Mike Peck a couple weeks ago, we talked about what it is to be a captain of a hockey team. And Mike said, I never thought of myself as I never thought about the captaincy being that you're a leader. You're a leader because you're a leader, and they kind of some people get chosen to be the captain because they're leaders. Jack is just a leader. He is a leader of that hockey team. They could give him the C, they can give him the A, they can give him nothing. But he's been the leader of that team for 2 years, and I think having Jack not be the captain, but then O'Reilly's also kind of there, but he's not also the captain, and they're clearly two guys who view the sport differently and effort levels differently, for better or for worse. And I think the team didn't have an identity last year. And it's weird to think that you could have a player like O'Reilly who is objectively a good, if not great, hockey player, but subtracting him from the locker room and subtracting him from the team, even though what he slots in to be as a good, if not great, second center would make a huge difference for this team. I think we're better by having Middlestat struggle and learn to play the sport than we are by having O'Reilly there doing what he did and having Casey get less minutes and not learn at the speed that he is currently.
If you look at this roster, I wonder how many guys want to be here. And I know that sounds silly. Robin Leonard,
is Berglund still on the roster?
With Robin Leonard having everything going on, did he want to be here? I don't know. I am not going to put those words in his mouth. Did Ryan O'Reilly want to be here? I don't know. But now you have Jack Eichel, who before the draft ever happened, before the lottery ever happened, crushes a can of a beverage and says, "I'm coming for you, Buffalo." And I believe he wants to be here.
He just embraced it.
Carter Hutton takes a $1.25 million a year pay cut to be here. He was apparently offered $5 million to be a backup somewhere, and he took $3.75 million to be here for 3 years.
To start.
Chance, yeah.
Jeff Skinner had a no-trade clause. He refused the trade to the LA Kings last year. You know where he said he wanted to come and play? Buffalo. And I think that is I think that is invaluable to any team, organization, workplace, roommate situation. Like,
Yeah.
you have a group of people in there who are important, who are. Rasmus Dahlin says he loves playing hockey here, maybe because it's a 10-game win streak, but he's got to love what's happening and how the city has embraced him. Like, you have a group of people who are key pieces to this organization. Your starting goaltender, your number one center, your number one winger, the young stud defenseman. They want to be here. Not because they're getting paid, they want to be here.
Yeah, and it makes all the difference because I would rather have the 5th best player on the team giving 100% than have the 1st best player on the team be O'Reilly and have him give 75%. And again, not to say that he ever did that,
Yep.
but I think there was an atmosphere of this team kind of mailing it in at points the last couple of seasons while he was here, and I get 0 of that from a Jack Eichel-led Buffalo Sabres team.
Do you think part of the thing about people wanting to be here and, say, Skinner willing to come here and Hutton wanting to come here, even wanting to be a starter, do you think part of it is that people are seeing that this team is, even with a bad season last year, the team is on an upward trend and want to be a part of it and think they can contribute to it?
I think that certainly can be part of it. I mean, maybe they look at Housley and think that, oh, that's especially for a guy like Dahlin, that's a coach who played a position that I play, and he played it well, and I think he'll help me develop. Or they look at Jason Botterill and like, man, look at what this guy built in Pittsburgh. This guy knows how to build a successful team. I think that combined with seeing Eichel, Dahlin, Reinhart, etc. on that roster, like, if you're Jeff Skinner, playing with Jack Eichel, it is very, and for good reason,
very appealing.
How Skinner's play, yeah, very appealing. It's like, I get to go play with that guy.
If they're able to void Berglund's contract, there's Skinner's money.
Yeah,
pretty easily. Like, not in its entirety.
And not on the roster.
Yeah, he's not on the roster on the website, by the way. I saw Justin scrolling through it on the big screen over there.
And like I said earlier, the new players that come in, everybody has raised each other's play, whether it was the players that were here like Eichel or whether it's the players that came in like Skinner. Everybody has helped raise the play of each other. It's been a mutually beneficial agreement.
And how much
situation?
How much are Hutton and Allmark lighting fires under each other's asses? Because they're both good. And I'm not saying there's a competition. I'm not saying they're not best buddies. We both know that they are sparkling prospects of the Trey White Goalie Academy. That's why they're both playing. They're both dazzling this year. Both of them have been outstanding.
Allmark's been,
and you can't tell me that they're not sparking each other to be better.
For sure.
It's so good.
I mean, Hutton's still looking to be number one goalie in the league.
Mm-hmm.
This is his chance. He's not getting paid like number one goalie. He's getting paid, what, 2.5?
3.75.
It's not a lot of
He
money.
would have been 5. He took 3.75.
Well, this is Allmark's. He's an RFA this year.
Yep.
Someone could offer sheet him. I mean, he's playing at a high level.
Offer sheets.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen's ready. No, he's not. But
he's playing great.
He's really
last
good.
night. I don't know if they won that game last night.
No.
The Emmerich?
No, I'm talking about
Allmark.
Sabres.
Allmark.
Sabres versus Bruins.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if they win that game without Allmark and that. He made some
phenomenal.
insane saves. He was dialed in. Whenever he's in that, I don't feel like any less confident.
They're both north of 92.
That penalty shot save changed the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That goes in. It's a whole different game.
That was a pretty bad call, in my opinion.
Yeah, and who was the shooter? Because he fell.
No, it was a nice little tug on his hip. But he got a clean.
No, I mean on the penalty shot he fell.
Yeah,
he tripped over the hash marks between the circles.
He fell almost the same way he fell on the actual trip, but he got a clean shot off.
Yeah,
and it's usually grounds for not getting a penalty shot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he had that much of a step on him. I thought it was a bad call.
I would rather it be a penalty shot and have Allmark save it than a 2-minute power play. So
yeah, I agree.
Also, can I have 2 more minutes on Jack, because that pass he made for the first Skinner goal is a level of playmaking that is just absolutely absurd.
That had to surprise Skinner, right? At some point he had to be like,
Skinner didn't
holy
just go
shit,
fire.
the
Skinner
puck's
got the
there.
pucks like, what
Skinner
the
held,
hell?
Exactly.
Skinner held up there.
He did.
Yeah, he did. He didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
He was probably yelling at him. I mean, Eichel knew he was there.
Mm-hmm.
But that pass was.
I don't know. Tuukka didn't know it was going that way. They didn't know it went in.
No.
There was a Boston defenseman that grabbed the puck and skated away with it, and they said on the broadcast clamoring that it went off the post because they didn't think it went in.
It was Ryan Donato who took that penalty shot, by the way.
Yeah, you see that pass a lot more though in the league these days. A lot of guys trying to make that play now, but it misses. But Eichel hit it.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They don't make it. They just attempt it, and Jack makes it.
Well,
and
and
he made it look
that whole thing had to be
easy.
beautiful because you need a right-hand shot behind the net to tuck that puck back on his forehand the way he did, and you need a lefty waiting for it on the other side to be in front of the crease the way he was. I guess a righty could bury it too, but it was a perfect storm. And there's been a lot of goals like that this year where they've just done everything right, and I'm good with that. I mean, I'm not complaining one bit. They are they're effective in the offensive zone. They really are.
And now we just got to wait for hopefully a second or third line, whatever combination of people are on it, to start picking up at least some secondary scoring.
And the back end to get healthy, please, because they're pretty hurt. And I
Pilot going on IR is sad.
Yeah,
How about Larry Pilot, man?
but also the ability. I don't know this. I really don't know this at all. I don't know if Pilot moving to IR gave them the cap room to have Gooley play instead of Tennyson, because I know they're right up to the cap.
They sent Tennyson down today and called Gooley.
Because Gooley played last game, so they called Gooley up ahead of time, but I know that they've been up against the cap, and part of the issue is once everyone was healthy, they did not have the cap room to keep Pilot up here. So it was either going to be waiving Hunwick and then burying his salary in Rochester, or a trade of somebody, because people that are saying Pilot deserves a full-time NHL gig, unless they make a roster move, they can't afford to keep him up here.
I mean, I think at this point, they sent Tennyson down this afternoon.
And he should never see NHL ice again.
NHL.
Unless it's for Toronto. He can go play for the Leafs.
He can go anywhere else. I don't care.
I think
Just get him off this team.
I think once Sky Wilson's off IR, I'll see him get waived right away. Because there's a player you don't need right now, it's that guy. Everyone playing their bottom roles.
Is it weird that I'm almost curious how Wilson would look on the second line?
No.
But if Berglund's gone, this changes everything too, because that's $4 million off the cap.
We have a much faster and kind of more skilled Remy Illy.
I'm not convinced that Ellie is actually that much better than Wilson.
My friend Eric,
the salary.
my friend Eric was asking how Ellie has to feel, because he played 78 games last year for Dallas. He played almost every game.
Yeah.
I know Dallas is a bad team, but how
team.
are you feeling when you go from 78 games to 7 or 8 games?
He's on a new team trying to find his role.
Yeah. But you get claimed off waivers, like, all right, new chance, and you're scratched.
He had a clear role in Dallas. Mm-hmm. Now he's coming here playing with a scoring
I'm
line,
not complaining that he's scratched. Don't get me wrong.
Line. No, neither am I, but I'm saying if you need cap space, once Sky Wilson goes back, you probably got to waive that guy. Because there's one guy you don't need right now, it's him. Mm-hmm. You're going to put that, he's not going to get picked up.
Mm-hmm. It all depends on Berglund, too, because that's over $4 million off the cap if they're able to void his contract.
Can we talk about how huge that is if his contract is gone?
And the whole point of that trade was salary relief for San Jose.
And the cap recapture split between us and St. Louis is interesting. It'll be interesting to see what plays out if he comes back. And I don't know. It's only been 2 days, but it really feels like he has no intention of reporting.
Well, he can't come back to this team. How would he even walk in the locker room at this point?
I
don't know.
I don't know. You see on the ice, he's trying. I don't know.
At least he had the decency to wait until after a game to do it. That's all I got to say.
You see him happy, but you see him on the ice happy for other guys. You see him cheering with the team. You know what I mean? He's out there, pouty face, mean mugging. I'm saying it's a turn. He's pretty shitty defensively. He's pretty bad defensively, but I'm surprised that you don't see him you don't see him like upset or like bad body language. You see him cheering with the guys. You see him happy with the guys.
When you're winning, it's easy to fake it.
So that's when I find that's what I was like. Oh, that's kind of curious. I don't know.
It caught us all by surprise. I mean, none of us expected it. No one in the media expected it. Just kind of came through Saturday morning. It's like, oh.
So it creates a bad marriage. Like, it's not the Sabres' fault you put in that spot. Be mad at the Blues. Maybe he doesn't want to be here, and he's not playing because he's not playing well. But fix it. You're making $4 million a year. Figure it out. You're a professional hockey player. Like, you're a man.
Back to St. Louis.
Fuck, I don't know. He's
going to go to the KHL. Watch.
It pisses me off. It pisses me off when somebody makes $4 million a year. He's going to pout. I just get angry.
Yeah. The frame of reference is so different.
And if you're making $4 million a year to be scratched, okay, he played 26 games it was?
Yeah.
So he was out 9?
Roughly.
Yeah, if you're getting paid $4 million a year to play basically 3/4 of your team's games, you're not doing bad for yourself.
I mean, hell, Buffalo, if you're Sabres, if you're listening, if you're looking for a guy who's willing to take a quarter of that to sit out every single game, I mean, guys, I'm available.
Can you skate?
No.
I'll take the minimum to sit in the press box every game.
Maybe on all the days he's scratched, the media elevator's broken, and he's extra pissed.
One of my favorite stories about I interned for the Sabres for a year, like the lockout shortened year in 2012, whatever year that was, when they started the season late. And former Buffalo Sabre Eric Bolton was one of the visiting scratches, and he had to awkwardly walk to broadcast and ask us where the elevator was to take him up to be scratched because he did not remember where it was from all his times being healthy scratched.
Funny,
sure.
he should be able to remember it because he
was probably up there a whole bunch, but concussions are
one too many punches.
Nice guy though. Just
cool.
Never got to play in any of his time there.
So Florida, as we're recording Monday, Florida Tuesday night.
That feels like it's a winnable game, but At least it's home this time because, man, that Florida trip always just seems to bite us. It's always so rough to go down there. It was the same when Atlanta was still in the league, too, going to that southeast swing. But I think Florida in this building should be winnable. They're playing super well. I hope they get points out of this. And I think they should be pretty dominant tomorrow.
It seems like every time we've felt that it's going to be an easy 2 points, it hasn't been. And I know, like, going into the game yesterday in Boston, it was like, well, they played less than 24 hours prior. They had a tough game, against Washington. They lose in a shootout. You take it all the way to the limits. And it's one of those things that I've resigned before the puck even drops that, you know what, if they lose this game, I'm not going to be mad at them because tough road trip. And they go out and they crushed them. They played a full 60-minute game yesterday, and they won 4-2 on the road against a decent team who, in the standings, is 5 points behind them. Now, 7 points behind them? So, but every time it's like, oh, they'll clean up this Flyers team on a Saturday afternoon.
Well,
that was a debacle.
So I'm trying to say is like they're a young team, and you got to learn to be a good team. Like it's easy to get up for the big teams. Like it's easy to get up for those. It's not as easy to get up for a Saturday afternoon game in Florida in an empty arena, for example. You know what I mean?
It's like in the NFL how you have a trap game where you're looking over this opponent here. For example, you had Toronto, then you had Philly, this whole week, last 3 games before Washington, it was like it would have been easy to overlook any of them.
I think weirdly this team also plays better when they're like in a groove playing. Like they had all those back-to-backs in the win streak too.
There was better the second game.
Yeah, they were always good the second game out.
They have a good record in both though.
Yeah.
They're like 9-3-2 in the first games and like 10-5-2 in the second games.
I think part of the advantage of being a young team is their endurance is at such a peak because they have just Jack is almost one of the elder statesmen of this hockey team. And they're also young and full of energy and haven't been worn
22,
down.
23?
Yeah, he's a young guy.
I feel like when you play great in a back-to-back against Nashville and Toronto, when you play great in those games, I feel like it's easy to come down against the Flyers on a Saturday.
Yep. And that was again, they got complacent in that game too because they went out ahead so early.
I think you got to. It's like you got to learn to play bad teams. It's easy to come down to those guys. Sabres always been a proponent of that. Play down your competition. Even when they were good, they did that.
Last week, the Sabres won their 11th home game. They won 11 home games all of last season.
Man, it's weird that the stadium is more full now. Can't imagine why. Bizarre.
It's loud.
It's fun.
It's fun to be there.
I was there Tuesday. I was there Thursday, and I'm going again tomorrow.
It's fun to be there again. It hasn't been fun to be there in 5 years.
Did I go to that Kings game with you? I was at Kings game with someone last year, and
that wasn't me.
It was fucking futile. Like I couldn't wait to leave.
Is that the game Botterill slammed the door and went down and yelled at the team?
Yeah.
It's a Kings afternoon
Bill
game.
was there. I didn't go with Bill, but Bill was there.
It was an afternoon Kings game, and they lost like 7-2 or something.
Railroaded, yeah.
It was just so quiet.
The Stars game, whatever. There were so many of them.
They all blend together, honestly.
I saw a girl actually studying.
Yeah, we joked about it being a library, but that day it was actually a library.
And so I had a seat or two around her to spread out her books and stuff.
Yeah. So to recap where we stand for the week coming up, and who knows what our broadcast schedule is going to be like next week with Christmas Eve falling on our normal recording day. At Florida Tuesday night, home to Florida Tuesday night. At Washington again on Friday, and then home to Anaheim on Saturday night. So quick turnaround again. Home game.
Anaheim is in the East already. So they caught Arizona in the middle of their East Coast swing, not like it's their first game and Anaheim is playing in Pittsburgh tonight.
Yeah, so they're going to be pretty adjusted.
And then playing in New York, I believe, Thursday or Friday.
That's a pretty easy trip for the Ducks then. So we'll see how that affects. I mean, Anaheim's a team I don't know what you get from them a lot of days. They had some injury issues. They're a pretty good team.
Ryan Miller's hurt.
Yeah, Miller's hurt, but I think Anaheim's certainly not a team you can look past. The Friday, Saturday back-to-back before they go into the Christmas break is going to be interesting. This is
the time of year traditionally that Anaheim, if they start off slow, this is the time they start picking it up. So this could be a very dangerous weekend for the Sabres.
Yeah, last check, Anaheim was beating Pittsburgh.
And I'm actually slightly bummed inside that the Sabres are in a good spot goaltending-wise because the nostalgic Sabres fan of me always wanted Miller to end his career in Buffalo.
I think he still signs a one-day and ends here.
Anaheim beats Pittsburgh 4-2.
Good for them. I want a 39, 40-year-old Ryan Miller season. I think at this point it's going to be tough to sell. Nostalgic fan of me. It's never going to happen now. They're in such a good spot goalie-wise.
The Senators beat the Predators tonight. Hockey's weird. It's funny.
You got to win sometime.
Hey,
The
I'm
Senators,
not-
going
the
to
Senators can
82.
score. The Senators have been able to score all year. They just give up 5
Duchesne's
goals.
like top 10 points.
Duchesne was
He's-
hurt.
he's-
He's still
no,
play tonight.
We talked about O'Reilly.
Duchesne's been on
being-
IR.
Imagine being Matt Duchesne. Like, you're on that Colorado team. O'Reilly leaves.
And
you're
the next
there.
thing you know,
The team
you're in
is
the back seat of an
terrible.
Uber, and then everything
The
goes
next thing
downhill
you know,
from
you're
there.
in the back seat of an Uber. He gets to Ottawa just in time to watch Mike Hoffman's wife run Eric Carlson out of town. Leaves Colorado, the worst team in the league. Colorado immediately becomes dominant. He comes to Ottawa. Ottawa becomes the worst team in the league.
But in his defense, he's a UFA.
Yeah, he's
And there's a
getting
lot
the
of teams that would take a
getting the
flyer
hell out
on
of
him.
there, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to see what last place team he's on next.
He's moving at the deadline, and there's going to be a lot of teams to take a flyer on him, and Buffalo could be one of them. I'm not rooting for it, but why not?
And speaking of Uber, PSA take Lyft. It's
Mm.
much cheaper.
Is it?
I
I
took,
didn't know that.
I took an Uber to the draft room downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's $32. I got a Lyft home. It was $14.80.
yeah, so
Was it peak times?
Damn.
Though? It's all
No,
about
so-
times, and I don't know.
quick shout out to Lyft. So I was not here the last time we recorded 2 weeks ago because I was getting back from a trip to, well, it's supposed to be Grand Rapids, Michigan, but turned out to be Detroit, Michigan because my girlfriend's car broke down in Detroit. So we spent 2 days taking Lyft, and as Justin mentioned, both significantly cheaper, and the drivers were super great. So
Really?
yeah.
My car was also clearly broken down. I took a Lyft to work this morning, and I got out of the car, and she gave me a freaking candy cane, bro.
Wow.
I was
It's
fucking
pretty lit.
Whoa.
It's pretty
Yeah,
lit.
that's how you get reviews. Positive reviews.
5-star
5
driver.
stars.
Where's my 6th
Which is
star?
funny because you see some of these cars driving around with both the Uber and the Lyft thing in their window. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
Opportunists. What can I say?
Yeah, I mean, I not to out the practice, but a lot of those drivers will have both apps open and kind of just take what's paying better and available to them because, I mean, I don't know how many Uber and Lyft drivers there are in Buffalo.
I know one of the issues was Uber was increasing its rake.
Right.
They were taking more
So
from
I
the
think,
drivers.
I think a lot of people that were doing both are kind of switching to be Lyft exclusive.
I hear Lyft has incentives, like challenges.
It's a pyramid scheme.
I mean, everything's a
Makes me
pyramid
think
scheme
of
if
The
you look up
Office.
high enough.
This makes
These
me
are
think of
some
The
hot
Office.
ride-sharing things. We should do ride-sharing.
Ride sharing,
I've never done
evergreen
ride
ride
sharing.
sharing podcast coming.
I've
up.
done it in
sharing.
Florida. That's pretty good.
716 ride-sharing brought to you by Kenmore Cabs.
Rachel's Mediterranean.
hey, as long as wait, that's Liberty Taxi, right? Kenmore Cabs, Liberty Taxis,
well, yeah.
whatever.
I think
I believe
think
you.
at a certain
Fuck
level.
those guys.
Speaking of pyramid schemes,
I almost got run off the road by one of those guys.
we'll have a very great Buffalo driver.
It has been very funny, although ever since Uber and Lyft came, just now that Kenmore Cabs, Liberty Cabs as sponsors, everything.
Oh yeah, they're trying so
everything
hard.
possible.
Yeah.
There was young events.
As if we don't hear it right. As if we don't see right through what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Gretzky and Pure Hockey came.
Mm-hmm.
I hate Gretzky. They're such assholes there. But they never had sales. Pure Hockey came, and they're all so friendly, and they have sales now. I still don't go to Gretzky ever. I go to Pure Hockey only. Back to Buffalo sports.
Yeah, I think this might be a great time to transition out of Sabres and move on to cover a couple other Buffalo sports teams. Unless you guys had any last couple Sabres things you wanted to touch on before we do.
No,
It's a pretty good weekend for Buffalo sports.
Great weekend for Buffalo
Banditos
sports.
get out to a 1-0
Yeah,
start. The
you know,
Bills.
before we get to
that's
Bills,
fine.
let's talk some other stuff for a little bit. Let's talk some
Let's
Madness
talk
for a little
about
bit.
Steve hitting the big leagues real
Yeah,
quick.
so we didn't talk about this on air, and Steve, I won't steal your thunder, but man, go for it.
So, heading into my 11th season covering the National Lacrosse League, I've now had the opportunity to provide color commentary to 4 home games this year. So I'm splitting the season with the regular color guy Randy Mearns because he has other obligations that don't allow him to do every game. So I'm really excited for the opportunity. So my first one is this Friday, and I would be completely remiss, not because I'm sitting on this podcast, if I didn't credit the 716 Sports Podcast for the opportunity to call FC Buffalo games and UB men's hockey games, because that gave me a tape, and I was able to send a tape over to the Sabres organization, and that was instrumental in me getting this call up to the bigs, as you so graciously called it. So I'm very excited for this Friday.
It's awesome. We are genuinely all very happy for you.
Yeah.
They're following the footsteps of Jeff.
He's already jumped
Jeff,
me.
Jeff has
Yeah.
called a game on ESPN, so get to his level.
Is that true?
Yeah, the UB game, ESPN.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I completely forgot that was a thing. I've kind of gone into autopilot at this point of the hockey season.
It's nice to see that what we've created, Mike. We're getting people that have opportunities. Like it's really fun.
Yeah.
Like Jeff's getting paid to call Junior Sabres, called the ESPN game. Steve's doing Buffalo fucking Bandits.
Justin, in 2 weeks,
I
you
mean,
and I
you've
will
been
be
there for
on the
11
big
years.
ice.
You created your own spot for that, but I mean,
I wouldn't have been able to crack the broadcasting scene without it.
And as you mentioned, the Bandits had their first game of the
Yeah.
season after a little bit of a lockout delay at the renewed Philadelphia Wings on Saturday. A game with a lot of scoring.
It's a dynamite game. It really was.
It's a great game to watch
showcase
from an
of the game.
objective standpoint.
Yeah, just a good showcase of the game to a city. They don't need to be taught the sport; they know it very well. But a great showcase for anybody that might have been new to the sport.
It's still good to remind the Philadelphia fans of what they're going to get now again, and I think that's a great introduction back into the market. And I hope that San Diego gets that same kind of introduction when they have their first home game, which is this weekend.
Yeah, ironically, the Bandits would have gone to San Diego week 1 and to Philadelphia week 2, and would have had both teams would have had their inaugural games against Buffalo. But a little bit of rescheduling changed that. But solid game. You had Sean Evans put up 9 points. And you had Dane Smith go down late with lower body injury. He was evaluated by doctors today, but I was told there's nothing to report yet. Probably just a wait and see kind of deal.
It'll be interesting to see whether he can recover to the point of being able to play a competitive lacrosse game. Because I think recovering to being able to walk around and recovering to being able to play at the level that we're accustomed to Dane playing are two different things. So, I mean, the good news is for Buffalo fans, if Dane is not able to go, there was a lot of guys onto that floor on Saturday who were dynamite.
Thomas Hogarth went out the front door. He didn't play D transition. He played forward, and he produced. Awesome. He had a couple of really nice goals, including the alley-oop. That was really sweet to see. The Bandits took a shot intentionally missing the net, and he caught it off the glass and dunked it behind the goalie. It was 100% on purpose.
Can you tell that John Tavares is more in charge of the offense now? Because who else would have drawn that up?
Right, they're a good team. I was concerned defensively. Everyone's upset about Vince giving up 15 because Vince is arguably the best goaltender in the league. They had some grade A chances that they gave up. They're going to want to close it in. You know, they have new faces on defense, but the problem is they're rookies, so it's going to take some time, especially playing the high-pressure system that they do. They really did not pack it in. You know, lacrosse has two kind of forms of defense. Pack it in front of the goaltender, have all 5 guys kind of stand there, stay bunched up, and don't give up the middle, or high-pressure switching as they pick, if you know, like almost like playing man defense in basketball. And the Bandits opted to play the high pressure defense, which is what they usually do. Very few teams pack it in anymore. Rochester is one of the exclusives that usually does, but they looked vulnerable on the defensive end. But the good news is when you score 20 goals, you don't have to worry about how many you give up. So,
what do you think it's like to be coached by John Tavares in lacrosse? I don't know, it's like a tough guy, but to the point where if you give him shit, you can't say you never did this.
I mean, I wonder how close it is to playing under Gretzky when Gretzky coached in the NHL for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a little different in this case, at least for the leaders, because Dane and Stainhouse and all those guys played with Johnny, so they know him as a guy.
Some of them as recently as this past summer, because he suited up this summer.
Oh, geez.
They were short, and he played a game for the Chiefs.
He the best player?
No.
Oh, he's too old.
Like, he just doesn't play as much as he used to, too, which is part of it.
But it's just he's unreal, and I think he's a good coach, though.
Yeah.
And nothing against Wayne Gretzky. If he was a good coach, he'd be coaching. Tavares has been coaching, and I think he's a good coach. I don't know that.
And he was coaching at a lower. Now he's gotten the promotion to be more involved as a co-head coach this year. I don't think they make that move. They think that he's not going to be able to handle it.
So it's funny because the Sabres game, they recently faced Rick Tocchet coach team, and Rob Ray was talking about Rick Tocchet as a player and tough guy, good player.
And who are they facing tomorrow?
Yeah,
Bob Bugner.
And it's like how you can't, as a player, you can't give that guy shit.
Yeah.
Say, how do you know?
Right.
Or blah blah blah, because he's a tough guy.
Yep.
He'll come right back at you and say, "Oh, I fucking did."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brendan Moore in Carolina. You've got
when Ray said that,
and
I thought about just John Tavares and was being coached by him.
And Richie. Can't forget that Richie's on the other side. You know, both their numbers are in the rafters. So
I think both those guys have the right mindset too, though, and I think it's a little bit different in professional lacrosse than it is in the NHL too, is because those. I mean, it's not the same level of celebrity that you get in the NHL. I mean, John and Richie are just everyday guys who just happen to be really, really fucking good at lacrosse. But the egos aren't there. They're just, I think that both of them will excel in the role, and I am excited to see where the team goes under their leadership. And I think Saturday was a great first step. Defense, and also if you're I saw a couple of these already. If you're a Bandits fan who's in Bandits Mafia complaining about Vin's not starting on Friday, just log off your computer because you're the same guy who spent 5 years complaining that Vino wasn't here.
Mm-hmm. Well, then they've been after the goaltenders in Buffalo, whether it was Cosmo, whether it was Bouquet, whether at some point it's not the goaltender, it's the defense, and that they've realized that and they've addressed that. And
Is it Bandits Mafia?
Yeah.
Can we stop with the mafia shit around here?
We probably should, but we're never going to.
Like Band of Bandits or something, like Band of Brother. Can we get something better than Mafia? Come on.
Listen.
Bill's Mafia, good. That's good. I like Bill's Mafia.
Original.
Sabres Mafia, no. Don't do it.
Yeah, once you get past the original, it's just you're trying to copy everybody.
It's derivative, yeah.
OG or bust.
There's nothing like going to Bandits game. There's a fandom there that's unmatched.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah,
those games are fun to
Friday.
go. I don't know. It sounds like they're not more popular around here. Those are fun fucking games to go to, man.
It's funny. There's like two different levels of it.
too.
There are fans who go every game and would never miss it. Like my buddy who I have season tickets with, he goes to grad school at Syracuse University and drives back every weekend. There's a home game. He drives back from Syracuse day of to go to Bandits games with me. Like people live and die by it. And if you don't go, people don't even talk about it. Like you just had to get someone in the door to watch a game and like watch their eyes light up. It's like, oh, I get this now.
But it's barely marketed. If you don't go to Sabres game, you don't see shit about the Bandits.
Yeah, it's tough. So we would encourage you, if you're listening and you are thinking about it or haven't been, they are home this Friday against the Toronto Rock.
They have a promotion for either $10 or $15 tickets. Can't beat it.
And I mean, you know what KeyBank Center is? Not a bad seat in the building. So get in there. It's a ton of fun. There's a ton of scoring. There's a ton of hitting. If you think that hockey gets to be too slow paced for between bad teams, there is never such thing as a low scoring lacrosse game.
One reason I go to
Really
Sabres
snap box.
games is for the goal horn. When you go to Bandits games, you get it 10 times.
Easily.
At least 10 times.
Yep.
And custom player specific goal songs.
Yes.
If
I don't
you're tired
care.
of Let Me Clear My Throat.
I don't care if they're down 20-10. I hear that they're going for the 10th time. I'm still a fucking half staff, dude. Like I said,
Yeah. You start like, man, right up straight, cross your legs.
That goal horn, that get me going every time.
Revs him up.
I just keep an audio loop in my room upstairs.
I don't need to know that. None of us needed to know that. None of us needed to hear that. But hey,
It's going to be awkward when Leslie listens to this
you
podcast.
do
now.
you.
Push the button.
Do it. Red light goes off.
All right, that's digression.
All
if
right,
I've
let's
ever
talk
heard
about the Bills. All right, so the Buffalo
Do we have
Bills. We're gonna we can
They
we
won,
can, we
right?
can take 10 minutes of our lives to do a cursory service and just talk about our feelings about it. That was a fucking awful football game.
They won.
Yeah, it was.
Come on, Jeff. They won the game.
They
It
did.
doesn't change the
They-
fact
Are
that it
you
was an awful
Are you a
game.
real fan?
Probably not, honestly. By what people would consider a real fan to be, I would say I probably am not, because I'm far more critical than a lot of people are after that game on Sunday. It's great to win. Is it even that great to win? The season's over. We're already out of the playoffs. Detroit. We only beat Detroit in regulation because they missed an extra point and
That
botched
was
an extra
an
point snap
ugly
and missed a
snap.
field goal. I mean, we were not good. We were
Detroit
down to
was
our
not
fifth
good.
running back. Allen's playing, I think, pretty well, but there's nothing around him at all.
I liked. He was throwing the ball in 30 spots, and they weren't.
I thought he played well.
They weren't
He
inaccurate.
actually- I mean, his stats may have not have been there, but he actually looked better than I think he has most games this season.
I heard a lot of people say it was his best game as far as not
All
statistically,
around, probably.
but the best game he played.
But Bucky Brooks, I think, one of these fucking verified football turds that has never seen a Bills game.
Bucky Brooks is the Winter Soldier. But anyways,
Huh?
never mind. Nothing.
I can find
It's a Marvel reference. Sorry.
Okay, I forget the guy's name. Anyways, he tweets like, Allen will never be a high percentage completion guy and all this bullshit.
Oh, Bucky Gleason. I was like,
What
what?
was it, Gleason?
No, it's an NFL guy. I think his name actually is Bucky Brooks.
What? Because Lorenzo Alexander called him out.
Yeah.
I'm looking now.
Fuck me. That got me all fucked up,
Like
Steve.
4 of us
You
on
said
our phones.
Bucky Brooks, which made me think immediately of Marvel.
Anyways, as I was
Rest in peace, Stanley.
Dude, no,
That's a
no.
tough year, man. It's a tough year out here for us nerds.
Here we go. Bucky Brooks.
It's
what I said.
his honest to God, it's his honest to God name. Also, while we're on our Twitter, Justin, you spelled Berglund wrong.
Berglund.
Unrelated.
Oh, whatever.
Berglug. Anyway,
Makes sense.
He's a scout, but the tweets like he's never going to be a high completion percentage passer, but a good runner. But like, you watch the game.
With
And
A-
six-
run skills.
6 to 7 of those are him running for his life and throwing out of bounds.
all right. So
The other 3 are going to be in Zay Jones' hands and then on the ground.
not to tear down this argument, the highest percentage of passes incomplete, not including drops or throwaways, belongs to Josh Allen. out of all NFL starting quarterbacks this year.
I don't care.
I realize that. I'm just gonna throw the spaghetti at the wall and see if any of it sticks here. I think that it's
account for his
he's never been a
games.
high percentage pass accuracy passer. That's not his game. He was never that in college. He hasn't been that so far. Does that mean he can't add a couple percentage points and become a decent percentage passer? Of course it doesn't. He could grow. This is his rookie year, and he's been hurt, and he's got no one around him. But I think if we expect Josh Allen to turn into Drew Brees, we're going to be sadly disappointed in terms of accuracy. His game is always going to be he's going to throw 50 to 55% completions, but he's going to be able to make plays with his legs, and he's going to swing a couple of those completions 50 yards downfield on beautiful passes.
Next game, count the amount of throws he throws out of bounds into the stands.
Yeah, it was especially noticeable
There's
on
a
Sunday.
high number of those.
Maybe if he threw a couple more of those into the stands against the Jets, we'd have another win.
If you want to talk about his earlier games in the year, okay, he threw some bad balls earlier in the year, but he's getting better every game. And I've changed my stance a lot since 4 weeks ago. He's getting visibly better every game.
But chucking the ball in the stands is showing that he's processing the game better than he was before when he was trying to force these bad throws. I mean, it's maturity.
He forced a bad one last week, not the Lions.
Yeah.
He got picked off.
The Jets.
Yeah.
That was a terrible throw.
He had the exact same look on Sunday, and instead of making the throw, he threw it away.
But
he rolled. He was looking downfield, cocked his arm, and then threw it away, which was smart.
It was the first time he did that in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not 100% sold on him based on the fact that it is just one game that he's shown this. I would like to see him continue to progress and make smarter decisions, but it is still just one game, and you have to see where it goes from there and not just be excited about this one.
Zay Jones keeps dropping balls. Balls that he should
Yeah,
catch.
let's address that in the offseason, please. Stick them or gloves or...
Do you think he's a spot in the team next year?
Yeah.
He probably has to earn it. Do you think he has to earn it, or do you think he's here?
No,
I think he's
got
earned
it
it already.
I think he's earned it. I mean, he has separation skills. He can get open, but he drops so many balls that other guys.
I think it's just going to take a little more seasoning for him and Allen
I'm
playing
not
together.
being impatient.
No, I understand. I mean, I think he's had a couple of games this year where he's been a difference maker, and there's been a couple of games this year where he's looked real rough around the edges. But I think that this is basically a second rookie year for him because of his injury and possible mental issues he was dealing with last year into the offseason. I'm still 100% backing him as a vital wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 on this team moving forward.
I can see 2 or 3.
The Bills go to Foxborough, right?
I'm not sure.
Let's not even.
How many are the Pats about to win by because they've lost 2 in a row and
make a point out of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They lose on the pitch woohoo play to Miami, and they go into Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh.
Dude, if I'm the Bills, go full troll mode. First play of the game, hook and ladder.
100%. Run something super gimmicky out of the gate,
like they did in that Monday night game.
Yeah, bring back the Wildcat and have have Pat DeMarco throwing
Here's
passes.
one other thing I want to talk about
the
with you
Wildcat,
guys.
but keep the fucking Wildcat.
Well, so
keep doing it.
You guys mentioned one of it, and we talked about it a little bit last week. The Bills have come out of the tunnel with offense on the first drive, and man, they have looked dynamite. Like that first drive scripting, incredible. And it was again on Sunday. What is it with this team or coaching that they cannot game plan or adjust in the game to keep being that effective?
They were the same way last year, though.
Yeah.
We thought about it last year all the time.
But what makes a good team or a great team is the ability to look like, okay, well, now they're doing this. Let's do this. And then you run it right back down their throats again.
Well, it happens almost every game for any team to where it'll happen. The Bills will get driven right down their throat first drive. And I'm not going to worry about it because I know they're going to make adjustments.
Yeah, Detroit had scored on their first 2 possessions or something like that.
It happens to the Bills, too. But
sure. But it feels like maybe it's just because we're watching it from the Buffalo perspective. It feels like our offense comes out of the gate hot as shit. And then next drive, done.
At some point, you don't have the personnel to adjust to make any good adjustments with.
Valid.
I mean, that could be part of it. Is the personnel is that limited, and any adjustment you try to make will be outside of what they can possibly offer.
There are other things you can do, in my opinion. Like, do you guys see the Rams' pace of play yesterday?
Yeah.
So the Rams will break the huddle with like 8 seconds on the play clock, and instead of making any pre-snap reads or adjustments, as soon as the line is set, they snap it. And then they'll break the huddle with 25 seconds left in the play clock, and they'll come out and they'll do the same thing. Then they come out and they break the huddle with 18 seconds on the play clock, and Goff will hit a hard count, and then they snap it with 1 second on the play clock. These are all gamesmanship things at their disposal that they could be doing It doesn't have to be personnel related. Is my point. They could do other things, whether it's
And
packages.
Allen is apparently good at that with his cadence,
But-
changing
but-
up all the counts and the cadence and everything.
But the Rams are a more veteran team. Bills got a very young offensive line. They can probably afford to do that with their offensive line.
Sure.
The Bills have a very, very young O-line. Outside of Vlad Dukas, they're very young O-line.
Dukas is not playing.
Wyatt Teller.
Yeah, that's been.
The Miller is still pretty young. It's his second year? It's his third year, right?
Third year.
Young and unskilled.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot of, and we've talked about this a couple times, pieces that need to be acquired for this team to become successful on offense. I have at least progressed to the point where I am curious to see what giving Allen better weapons will do. I was very much a downer about the pick. I'm still not entirely on board with it, but I think he's earned my respect to the point that I want to see what he can do when he has a theoretical bona fide number one receiver and a better line in front of him.
I'll agree
So
with that.
whether that is a free agent, whether that is drafting a wide receiver in the top 2 rounds, whatever that is, I am interested in what they do now.
Can I be a total curmudgeon here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Robert
Please,
Foster
of
is
course.
not good. Isaiah McKenzie is not good. They are benefiting from volume. They're getting thrown the ball 8 times a game because he's got no one else to throw.
Oh, good. Man, Steve left really awkwardly. Just kidding.
Wow. I think it's that they are like they're just benefiting because it's got to be them. Like I don't know. Like I feel like any running back in the NFL, like it was Samuels yesterday. When you're the bell cow, they get their yards because they're without the Steelers without Bell, and then Connor comes in, and now he's
Bell
hurt.
cow
and
is
Samuels.
a great word to use for the
Which-
Steelers running
right.
back situation.
But you get what I mean. Like Samuels had a nice game yesterday because he sees the volume, and I think that Foster he's fine. I'm not saying he's bad, but people are already ready. Someone called into GR today talking about how he can be the number 1 next year, and I realize that's a hot take.
Robert
Monday.
Foster is
I
a
know
number
that.
1, number 3 or number 4 receiver. He's a slot guy who can run
Yes.
deep routes.
But
He
he's
doesn't
not
run-
that good.
He's okay.
Put him on. Pluck him. Spin the wheel of 32 teams and put him on a. Where does he even see the field?
He may not be that good, but he's like Zemgus in his All-Star season.
At least he catches the
on this
fucking
team.
ball. I mean, I'll take that at this
But
point.
He can
that's
be-
what we're settling for, Jeff.
mean,
and
yeah.
when he does it, we're like, man, he's good. No,
With what they have around them right now, don't complain about somebody who's actually producing.
Well, I think there's a difference between complaining and just saying like,
I don't
man,
want
like,
him here
I
in the
mean,
future. I don't want him to be the guy.
honestly,
I don't,
if
I don't want him to
if
be
it
the
takes
guy.
2
I wouldn't mind him
seasons-
being a guy.
So I'm okay.
Yeah,
I'm
if it-
okay with. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
If it takes 2 seasons to move him to get somebody in that's capable of holding down the number 3 or number 4 receiver position, I'm fine with that as long as he keeps doing something.
He's not bad though.
I kind of like him and McKenzie as like depth
Yeah.
receivers.
I'm okay
but they're
with
not good.
I'm okay with this core as McKenzie, Foster, Jones, and a fucking
and
No,
3
I don't
new
want them
guys.
in the core.
true number 1.
I don't want them in the core. No, nope,
Huh?
nope. I don't want them in the core. I don't.
None of them.
I think McKenzie's
Not on the
returning
core.
kicks here for 5 more
McKenzie's
years.
Fine,
McKenzie-
return kicks, but that
great.
doesn't mean that he's the number 3 receiver.
No,
Sorry.
I don't think he will
Okay,
be
then he
the
can be the number
receiver.
5 receiver then.
But he's a guy that he makes plays. He's not on the field, he's making plays.
Sure,
He's making plays.
because he's getting the ball
Yeah,
because he's fast and
But
he's
he's-
he's a weapon. He's a weapon. You utilize him as a weapon.
fine.
I'd be more worried
They're not
about
good.
if he's getting volume of touches and not doing anything.
I think you put McKenzie on a fucking Patriots team. He's a fucking perennial superstar. Guaranteed.
Nope.
No, he's much quicker
We're,
and agile.
we're somewhere
No.
between your take and your take.
He's the West
as I
Welker.
point to the
He's-
2 of you on an audio.
I'm just
only
looking at
podcast.
people so desperate, as you said, they're
He-
so desperate to cling to someone that can catch the ball that when someone does it, they're like, he's good.
Hey,
He's
hey,
much
rem-
quicker than a fucking not Danny Amendola.
Edelman, Julian Edelman.
and Wes Welker. He's much quicker, much more agile.
Isaiah McKenzie is the
He would have-
Cordell
Belichick
Patterson.
would have a field
Also-
day with McKenzie and his team.
Also
Don't tell me
remember
he
that.
wouldn't.
Also
He has
remember
Patterson
that the
right
Bills
now.
fan base is also back when what 5-8 years ago whatever thought Ryan Fitzpatrick was a franchise quarterback.
I think about 6 or 7 NFL teams have made that mistake by now. Tampa Bay tried it for a couple
Hey,
weeks.
T.O. thinks so fuck all of it.
T.O. loves Fitzpatrick, man. It's great.
You can't tell me that Bill Belichick would not have a field day with McKenzie at his slot receiver.
I can say that because he has Cordell Patterson right now and barely uses it.
We have a hot
Patterson
take.
is a taller
Bro,
version
We
of
have a
McKenzie.
very
a
hot
tall-
occurrence here.
Huh?
The
Both of your
With-
takes are a little
No, no,
warm.
no.
I'm feeling some heat radiating from the right side of this room.
No, there was
Oh, yeah,
the 2-point try attempt just got intercepted and returned for 2 points by Carolina.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
So the Saints score a touchdown with Alvin Kamara and go for 2. The Panthers pick off the 2-point attempt and return it the other way for 2 points.
That
awesome.
altered a game last year when Eric Berry returned that 2-point
Yes.
attempt by Atlanta for a touchdown and ended up being the game-winning point.
That was
You don't see
awesome.
that very often. So that's interesting. I think that Isaiah McKenzie is a good football player at what he is able to do. He's fast. He's good in space. He doesn't run great routes. He has okay hands. I think he's got a role on this team as a special teams returner and kind of a gimmicky fourth receiver. I like him on end arounds as a kind of scat back. I like him on inside routes or things they can do to create space for him on the outside. I think if you're expecting Isaiah McKenzie or Robert Foster to be your number one receiver,
Never
you
said
are
that.
living into hype.
Never.
I understand. I'm not speaking to you specifically. I think that both Robert Foster and Isaiah McKenzie will get chances to continue to be on this team next year. It'll be interesting to see if they rebuild the receiving core, if they continue to succeed when they are receiving less of a focal point of the offense.
I want to know what receivers in the NFL would be called good, and then compare Robert Foster to them.
I mean,
I don't mean great, because obviously you have your upper echelon. You have Nuke, you have Michael Thomas, you have Julio Jones, but then you get to like Calvin Ridley. He's good.
Yeah.
You get to I'm trying to think of another good example of like maybe Chris Hogan or I'm trying to think.
I think at this point it's
Jarvis Landry is good.
I think at this point with a rookie Robert Foster who came up in the middle of the season, I don't know what his ceiling is. I think it's not unrealistic to expect that he could be Chris Hogan.
Okay.
I mean, we're not talking about Nuke or Julio or AJ Green or any of these guys, but I think that Robert Foster has at least he's got 300-yard games, and we're talking. I mean, I realize
so did Deontay Thompson last year.
Well, he had one 100-yard game.
But that's my point is Deontay Thompson had one of these games where he was like the breakout guy, and everyone was ready to crown him. He goes to Dallas, gets cut, comes back here and gets cut. Did he not?
No, and that's 100% true for Deontay.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple sustained games against different teams. I think he's at the very least earned a chance to earn himself sustained playing time next year. Now, does another NFL offseason be getting a chance to be a top guy help him, or is he a flash in the pan and next year he's the fourth receiver and then he's gone?
You know how you guys are looking at Allen, how I look at Allen, how everyone looks at Allen, and we're not willing to say he's good yet, even though he's doing all these good things?
He's getting better.
Sure. But is he good? I think that's where Robert Foster is for me. I'm not ready to say Josh Allen's a good quarterback. I'm not ready to say Robert Foster and Isaiah McKenzie are good receivers.
I think the threshold that's an interesting point. I think the threshold for what we consider to be a good receiver is a lot lower than what we consider to be a good quarterback.
Sure.
To be a good quarterback, you have to be Andy Dalton or better.
I like
and
it.
if you're in Cincinnati, you have to be better than Andy Dalton because Andy Dalton's not good if you
Yep.
live in Cincinnati.
Yep. I like that point.
But if you're a top 100 and depending on where you are, top 100 to 150 NFL receiver, you're considered to be good to average.
See, I love Isaiah McKenzie as a player. I think he's got a role. He's great within his role. He's a weapon of sorts.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a terrible receiver. I think
he's a
got
gadget
a spot.
guy, though.
He is gadget. He's very
But
gimmicky.
he's got this. There's a need for a player like that in his league, though,
Mm-hmm.
and the Bills use him that way.
But
which
like,
is why
who's
I
the
like
best?
him.
Who's the best of that? Taylor Gabriel. Like, who's
I think
the?
Gabriel runs better routes than he does, though.
Mhm.
I mean,
Because Gabriel
who's the
cracked
best
down
guy?
the
I
scene
want to
with.
say the Pats got Cordell Patterson. He was garbage in the Vikings. He's a trash player.
he was very good
He's
for
playing
the
better
Vikings for
running
like
back
2
than he
years.
was receiver.
Well, he runs
Yeah.
Cordell
absolutely
Patterson.
But
terrible
he wears
routes.
number 84, so
He runs very bad
That's
routes.
a fucking warm take over there.
Like Patterson, I'm saying, I don't think McKenzie can do anything that Patterson can't do. I think if you gave Belichick McKenzie, he'd use him like he uses
Yeah,
Patterson.
I think that's right.
And Patterson's scoring touchdowns on limited touches. He can't run a route for shit. He's a terrible receiver, but he's fast, and if you give him a space, he scores. McKenzie's that guy.
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean, he's almost like I think the best guy at that play, and it's a different position. I think Tariq Cohen is the best player at the position that they wanted to slot McKenzie into. He's a running back, but he kind of plays a hybrid.
Sure.
McKenzie is a receiver who plays the same kind of hybrid, but I think Cohen is the bar for that position in the NFL these days.
Yeah, I was
Or,
trying to
or
think
maybe
like,
Kamara.
I was trying to think of like Golden Tate or something like.
I like McKenzie on this team. Steve doesn't.
Yeah, those were not my words, you ass munch. Wow.
And here I thought we were going to have a nice, peaceful 10-minute Bills conversation.
Well, I'm just thinking about our conversation earlier
Steve's cheeks
about
are
how we don't always
Yeah.
agree, and it makes for good conversation.
So for those of you who are listening, we actually, before we came on the air today, we had a chance to talk to our friend Pat Moran, and we will be on the Moran Analytics podcast, which we'll be releasing this Friday. So you can follow Pat. He's at Pat Moran Tweets. His show, a couple of us already listen to religiously, and we would encourage you to check it out. He's a very good interview and a friend of the pod. So
Steve and I refer to Pat's podcast as a must listen.
100% for me, it's a must listen.
This Friday,
I don't miss it.
it's a must in all caps listen.
because we'll be on it. God bless.
Yo, it's true.
Oh, you get to hear us more than once this week.
Man, what more could the world want than double us? Really,
Feel special, listeners. Feel special. We're putting ourselves out there for you.
it's the holiday season and we're all about giving.
Mm-hmm.
I love, by the way, Lorenzo Alexander tweeting at Bucky Brooks telling him to shut the fuck up.
Loved
Basically,
it. Loved it.
it's.
That team.
I want Lorenzo Alexander here on this team until he wants to retire.
That team loves Josh Allen.
They do.
Even LaShawn McCoy said he doesn't usually like rookies at all. Loves Josh Allen.
He loves Josh Allen more than Josh Allen loves growing his penis.
What do you think? Real quick, we talked about this in Slack Check, but only really the Slack Check. But only-
Slack Jack.
Slack Check.
Jack.
wait,
Slackjack.
rewind this.
Slack Check.
Slack Jack.
I've had two heady toppers. All right, I've had two heady toppers.
Slack Jack.
What do you think LaShawn McCoy gets the Bills O-line this year for Christmas?
A bill. An invoice.
A signed
Yeah.
picture of his medical X-rays.
Did he get him segways in the past, like recently, like 2-3 years ago?
Maybe they
Yeah,
should
maybe
try
he'll
to
give them
block all
segues, but he's
those.
going to loosen one of the wheels so they all fall off and can't block for him anymore.
Dude, this year they get like a $10 watch from fucking Walmart.
Here's a Tim Hortons gift card and some Skittles.
Real question: what would you get them? Like, what do you think they're worth? Like, you're not going to pay that much appreciation.
Get them a picture of Eric Wood and Richie Incognito and say, strive to be this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Motivation. I like it. Good work. Motivation. Mike, what would you get them?
I don't know if I would
as-
get them anything.
As a former O-line man yourself.
I mean, seriously, I don't think I'd get them anything. They haven't done their job this year. They haven't done anybody any favors. I mean, why are you getting somebody gifts on the team just because they're teammates?
Save down answer.
I'm saying nothing.
Damn it. Okay, Steven?
I like. It's not mine. I think Bill said like TVs, like cheap TVs or something like that. I could totally see.
Like not even like an LG, like an Emerson.
Oh yeah, we're talking like the $300 one that you get on Black Friday. That,
Like he's going to dirt cheap TVs.
Yep.
Yeah.
buying
Let
them
me
out.
get 6 of these refurbished
Yep.
motherfuckers.
They're not even matching. This is 6 different TVs.
The 70-inch or the 43? Does he have 32s?
32s might be a
I
little
was
big,
thinking 19-inch computer monitors.
but they're the CRT ones, not the flat screens.
Even worse.
They're not even 120 hertz or 60 hertz. Fuck them.
With the amount of money he makes, he could buy him watches and
Never think twice
drop
about
in the
it.
bucket. Yep.
That's
So
not,
now the Bills travel to Foxborough.
you think McCoy's on the team next year?
40.
No.
You think they trade him,
No.
cut him?
I think they try to trade him. And if they can't trade him, they cut him.
I mean, I think it goes back to our discussion we had earlier this season where LaShawn McCoy is not the same LaShawn McCoy. He
Nope.
doesn't have that explosive step, and no, he's. And
I mean,
he's still,
I know
didn't have the
Bill's
offensive line
not
help,
here
but-
tonight, but he's been saying it for 2 years.
If-
It's like we're waiting
but
for
he
him to
does-
fall off the cliff.
If
and-
McCoy wanted to be here before, he does not now. Why would he?
I said at the start of the year, I said he's not going to be part of the team's long-term plan.
No.
Just trade him now.
He's too
Yeah.
old to be part.
I don't think
And now he's hurt all
lost
the
a
time,
lot.
too.
I just think this O-line is fucking
I think he's
pitiful.
lost. I think he lost something this year,
Mhm.
even with the
I
O line.
agree.
I think he did.
Yeah, I
He
don't.
lost 3 Pro Bowl players.
I agree. I just
Right. I think it's like I said. I think it's a combination of both. He's lost half a step, and that offensive line is not good, and it just is all coming together, and it's affected his output.
I think if he's back here next year, it's not going to last long. And the only reason he got as many chances as he did this year is because Chris Ivory is also terrible.
So who will be the Bills running back next year?
Marcus Murphy or someone who's not on the team right now.
I actually,
Well, yeah.
I really love Marcus Murphy a lot.
Are they going free agency? Are they going to draft somebody in like the 4th round? Are they going to?
I mean, running backs are a dime a dozen. You might do both of those things.
Mhm.
I think this year, next year, this offseason, just put as much as you can in the O-line.
Sure.
Yeah, you have to.
And the
Fine by me.
defense is so young, and I think the only
I
free
mean,
agent right now is going to be
Kyle Williams probably
Poyer.
is.
Williams is gone.
Yeah, he's probably going to retire. Alexander, I wouldn't be surprised if he's only got a year or 2 left.
He still has turn.
I want him here until he wants to be back. I love Lorenzo Alexander.
Poyer's a free agent, but I'm sure he'll come back.
I hope so.
I think this team loves being here.
I get that impression from the defense at least,
You see
except
that-
for
Oh, man.
Vontae.
Except for Vontae, yeah.
Man, I love how Poyer and Hyde look. They look like they share just one wavelength right between their brains.
They have bunk beds in the training room. Like, those guys are just like the same player in two different bodies when they're out there playing well. And it's impressive. And it makes such a big difference for the defense, too, to have the two guys back there patrolling two different sides of the field be as in sync as they are.
And they've also done a really good job of building depth behind, when you lose. They lose Matt Milano, so Lorenzo Alexander played 93% of the snaps on Sunday, and he did the pass rush package and the coverage package, and he's great. He did a great job. But on the defensive line, I mean, you have Harrison Phillips, and you have Jordan Phillips as well. You have Trent Murphy. You have Shaq Lawson playing a role. They have depth in key positions that they really can focus on the offense, and my hope is that the offense looks half as deep as the defense does.
If anything, they need another cornerback.
Yeah.
They need it.
Yeah.
Taron Johnson is great, but he's too small to be consistently healthy.
I don't follow enough of the college draftees upcoming that one of you guys might be able to help me out. Earlier in the year, I said I don't want them to draft defense in the first round, and you guys said it's a defense-heavy draft.
It's a very defense-heavy draft.
But now with the Bills, maybe possibly picking 10th instead of 5th, what changes? Because I saw a mock draft from McShay that said an offensive tackle. He had the Bills picking at like 8 and taking an OT.
Yeah. And I think that this will end up being like an entire other show for us too once we get to the end of the season.
I don't follow it closely enough to know who's out there.
Depending on where they draft, I still want it to be a receiver or offensive tackle.
Me too.
And if that means
needs.
you trade down a couple spots,
trade down as many times as they'll let you.
The top 32, as it's slated by all the experts, and this will all shake out differently with workouts and interviews and all that stuff. The top 32 is like 20 to 25 defensive players, just based on pure talent.
Trade down every time.
Trade down and take a tackle. Trade down and take one of the top 3 receivers, whether that's Hollywood Brown or N'Keal Harry,
or Andre Johnson,
or
Anthony Johnson,
Andre Johnson or DK Metcalf, or whoever it is.
I'm kidding.
I think the first 2 rounds it needs to be 1 offensive lineman, 1 receiver, and I think those are both parts in getting a better idea of what Josh Allen's ceiling is. Because I don't think we know yet.
I hope that whatever position the Bills pick, it's coveted. And I hope there are teams vying for that pick and that Bean makes a haul. Because you can. We've seen it. Mm-hmm. You can make a haul in the top 10 pick trading out of it. You can really.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how you figure New England has something to play for, so it's going to be a tough game at New England. And then that end of the season game against Miami will be interesting because those will be 2 teams that Miami just got railroaded by the Vikings on Sunday. They could be out of the contention by then.
I think they are.
Are they already?
They fell out, yeah. I could be wrong, but I think they fell out of the hunt.
So it'll be interesting to see. Justin's taking his headphones off. Is that a sign that we're done? Oh, okay. Should I wrap the show up? And cool. So thank you all so much for listening here to the 716 Sports Podcast. We probably don't actually know what we're going to do in terms of recording next week, but we'll throw something together for you. Probably not at a normal time because we normally record on Monday. Monday will be Christmas Eve, and Tuesday will be Christmas. So we're not going to blast the show out during our normal time, but we'll probably get something together for you.
I think people usually have family things going on Christmas Eve.
That's
and Christmas.
That's what I've heard.
That's kind of the impression that I get.
Yeah. So we'll do something, whether that's recording remotely or either way. Bills play at New England. That's going to be rough. So watch the Sabres, watch the Buttes, watch the Bandits. Support your local teams. I think UB's bowl game comes up in the next little bit here as well.
I think it's the 20.
It's the 20th or 21st or something like that. So it should be later this week. So watch them. Disappointing into the season, but still good nonetheless. You can follow us on Twitter at the 716 Sport Podcast. We are on Facebook at 716 Sports Podcast. Available wherever great podcasts are sold and or listened to. And as always...
We still haven't figured out how to multitask sports on Twitter, have we?
We are at the character limit for Twitter handles. So
just play along with it.
So just pretend that we're only talking about one sport. God bless. Go Bills.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Congrats to Steve one more time on his Buffalo Madness gig.
You guys are too much.